It's hard to believe that it's been about 15 years since Mini first introduced their biggest vehicle ever to the States, the Countryman, all the way back in 2010. Now, as a subcompact SUV, the Countryman certainly plays a very important role here in their North American portfolio, and for 2025, we are seeing an all-new third generation introduced, and as you can see, it's a comprehensive redesign. We're talking about an all-new platform, all new engines with way more power under the hood, a new exterior design overall, and a brand new infotainment system that finally brings Mini into the modern era when it comes to technology. So as you can see this week, the company has loaned us this gorgeously specced out British Racing Green Metallic Countryman S All-4. And the big question I want answered, for those of you who are looking for a compact family SUV with way more style versus your neighbor's mainstream vehicle like a RAV4 or CR-V, how does the brand new 2025 Mini Countryman stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So I have to say, the exterior styling of the Mini Countryman, the new version, is probably one of my most favorite aspects of this vehicle. But before we start talking about the exterior design, let me go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, here in America, Mini will offer the car with 3 different powertrain options. This, however, that I'm showing you is the base motor. It's got a 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. Now, if you guys are familiar with the just recently introduced and redesigned BMW X1 and X2, this powertrain is essentially the same option, because remember, the Mini Countryman shares a platform with that vehicle. So what you have here is the all-new 2-liter twin-power turbo direct injection 4-cylinder that makes 241 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Compared to the old Countryman S, which had a 2-liter turbo as well, this makes about 52 more horsepower and almost 90 more foot-pounds of torque. The interesting change, however, is the fact that Mini decided to go to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission that replaces the old 8-speed conventional torque converter automatic, and all Countrymans in the US come standard with the company's all-4 all-wheel drive system, which I think is a great decision. And fuel economy did go up this year, improving to 24 in the city, 32 on the highway, around 27 combined. That's about a 1 mpg improvement across the board. The company did shrink the fuel tank, however, from 16 gallons to 14.3 gallons, but you should still be able to do just under 400 miles of range on a full tank. Premium is going to be recommended. Mini says this model should be able to sprint to 60 in around 6.2 seconds. We'll test it out when we get this vehicle out on the road. And its top speed is just under 150 miles an hour. And the other surprising change about this new Countryman is the fact that this vehicle can tow a pretty hefty amount, up to 3,500 pounds properly equipped, which is honestly double versus what you're going to get from most of its competitors. And as this car sits, it weighs in at just under 3,800 pounds. It is around 200 pounds heavier versus the previous generation. Now, keep in mind, the Countryman JCW will have an extra 71 horsepower. And then there's also a fully electric model called the SE, which will essentially offer 313 horsepower and around 212 miles of range. That's a different review, but overall, I think this powertrain should be solid for most buyers looking in this class of vehicle. Now, shutting the hood and taking a look at the exterior styling. First of all, Mini is calling this exterior design charismatic simplicity. It's essentially an all-new generation of design for Mini. We also just saw a new version of the Mini Cooper in both the 2- and 4-door configurations, and I have to say, charismatic simplicity, I think, is the right terminology for this design. I love the way this car looks. It looks a little bit less bubbly, but still instantly recognizable as a Mini. I love this British Racing Green 4 exterior color. I think it just fits really nicely with the bronze accents that you find around the vehicle. You can see the headlights. All Countrymans come with this newly kind of squared off full LED headlight design with the LED daytime running light, LED turn signal, LED low and high beams. There's a red S badge to let everybody know. This has the, 2-liter turbo engine, and it's got, like, again, more power versus the base Mini in the previous generation. You can see over here, this is where you'll find the radar sensors for the adaptive cruise control, the camera system, of course. There's the updated Mini logo there, and of course the grille is enlarged, and down here you're going to find some functional air intakes. No fog lights on the vehicle, but you do have some integrated parking sensors, more of those bronze accents. My particular test car is the upper trim known as the Iconic with the favored body style. So that's going to include features like the body colored roof, the bronze accents, and overall with this British Racing Green, I love this exterior design. In fact, I would probably buy it exactly in this configuration myself, Moving around the side profile, you can see the Countryman is now finally, got the proportions of a compact SUV. Although by the dimensions, this car is huge compared to the previous generation. Mini has stretched the overall length to 175 inches. That's almost 5 inches longer than the previous generation. It has a 106-inch long wheelbase. It's an inch longer. It's around 72.5 inches wide, about an inch wider. And the height has also increased tremendously by 4 inches. It's still only 65 inches tall. This vehicle is roughly the size of a Subaru Crosstrek, but by Mini standards, it certainly is huge. This favored iconic trim that I'm showing you has these gorgeous 20-inch windmill-style wheels with the bronze accents. They're polished and machined and black accented. You can see it's got a Pirelli P0 tire on it, an all-season tire. You can also upgrade to a summer tire, which I think my test car actually has the summer tire option. It's riding on a 245 by 40 R20 Pirelli tire with all-wheel disc brakes. You can also get adaptive dampers for the first time. My test car is missing it. I also appreciate the kind of textured non-painted fender trim that goes along the wheel arches and along the side profile. This vehicle also offers around 8 inches of ground clearance, which is about 1.5 inches more versus the previous generation. That allows you to, again, be able to do some off-roading in this vehicle if you'd like, thanks to the additional ground clearance. But again, it's not like a off-road style vehicle, but it can just take you further down the cam trail. You can see, I like the gloss black painted mirrors, which are power folding cameras, integrated turn signals. You can also get this painted in white, red. You can also get this in white or black as well. I actually really like the body colored look. My test car also has the panoramic glass roof, which actually opens to vent air, along with those roof rails, which are low profile. I also love this kind of trim piece here that says all 4 with this kind of unique textured pattern. It just adds a little bit more character. I also love the squared off profile of this vehicle. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the design. It certainly looks big in the video, but again, it's still about the same size as a Subaru Crosstrek, or around 6 inches shorter than your neighbor's Toyota RAV4 or Honda CR-V. Now moving around to the rear, you can see the fact that this car shares a platform with a BMW, you wouldn't be able to tell because it's got its own unique design. You can see the taillights are full LED. You can actually change out the light signature through the infotainment screen. There's 3 different settings. This is the JCW light signature. It certainly looks very, interesting and very modern. You can see the rear wiper is located right here. It's not hidden behind or underneath the rear spoiler, which would have been nice. You can see it spells out Countryman S at the back very boldly, and then you can see no visible exhaust tips. They are kind of tucked away underneath the rear. It's got a dual exhaust system. I believe the JCW has an exposed exhaust with dual chrome tips, which would be nice to see. And then you can see opening up the cargo area, power liftgates obviously included. And because this vehicle is much larger, you get significantly more cargo space. So just under 25 cubic feet of storage space with the second row seats up. That's about the same as what you're gonna get in the BMW X1. Underneath this area here, you can see there's a pretty deep storage area, which is really nice. What I don't find, however, is a spare tire. Instead, there's a fix-a-flat kit with an air compressor. If you fold down that second row, Mini says it expands the cargo to 56 cubic feet of space. 56 is huge. This has roughly around 8 to 10 more cubic feet versus the previous generation, and it even has around 8 more cubic feet versus this car's platform mate, the BMW X1. So as you can see, this car is definitely a lot more practical versus the previous model years. So the exterior of the new Mini Countryman certainly has so much style to it, but what about the interior? This is where Mini also made some huge upgrades compared to the previous generation. But before we get inside, here is the key fob for the vehicle. You can see it's a brand new design key fob for Mini. You can see it has the Mini logo here along with the Mini logo here. It kind of reminds me of a BMW key, but again, the style and the design of it is different. You can see there is remote start from the fob itself. There's the lock button. Your unlock button is here. Your remote trunk open release, and then your panic feature is there. The key fob is definitely bigger than a BMW key, but I also like how it feels pretty high quality. I would have liked to see a little bit more metal trim on the key, maybe the same bronze colored accents from the car onto the fob itself. But again, that's kind of a nitpick. You also can use your phone as a key, a digital key as well, if you are an owner of this vehicle. Now, as I approach the vehicle, you can see the door handles look like they've been lifted directly off of a BMW X1. When I lock the door, the mirrors will automatically fold in, which is nice. The vehicle also comes with a walkaway auto lock and unlock function. That is, again, a feature taken from BMW. When you touch the back of the door handle, you can see that's what unlocks the door for you. The mirrors will unfold. And then the favored trim level that my test car has includes some upgrades to the interior. First of all, this color combination is a chef's kiss perfection. I love the British Racing Green with the vintage brown leather interior. You can see this is included with the favored trim level, along with those unique looking wheels, and the JCW sports seats. These are the upgraded JCW style sports seats, which are included in the favored trim. They also offer an 8-way power adjustment for the driver's side, and it also offers an active lumbar massage. These seats are also heated, but sadly not ventilated. It looks like there's actually perforations for ventilation, but Mini does not offer ventilated seats in the US here, which I think is a mistake, especially at this price point. It should offer that. I love this kind of interesting cloth material that you'll find from the dashboard onto the door panel, but this really cool texture here where it has like a, intersection between the brown and the blue with the speckles and the bronze accents for the metal door handles here, the Harman Kardon stereo that's included with the iconic trim. It sounds incredible. If you guys are an audiophile, highly recommend the Harman Kardon sound system. You can see down here, it's leather covered and padded, but you don't see any exposed stitching. The window controls look like a BMW. They're one touch for all four, which is nice. All of the switchgear is all BMW, which is a great place, I think, to borrow from. Down here, it is hard touch plastic with additional storage. But overall, the interior certainly makes a great first impression. Now, when you get inside, you can see with 8 inches of ground clearance, this has a really nice, easy step-in height. And then when I shut the door, I want to say, sounded relatively solid, but it definitely has a weird tinny hollow sound to it at the back end when you shut the door. So kind of a little small nitpick, but again, once you're inside this interior, it is absolutely stunning in terms of technology and in terms of design. Now, when you want to start the vehicle up, Mini has always done a bunch of toggles and whatnot, and that kind of still is the case here. When you get in, you actually have to turn this little switch here to the right. And when you turn it to the right, that starts the vehicle up, which is also really cool to see with the different toggles and whatnot. You can see there's also a drive mode selector here, which Mini actually calls experiences. If you toggle this, you can choose between several different drive modes. Now, I had to disconnect my phone from the CarPlay, but I wanted to show you guys what the experiences look like when you start toggling between them. Now, this is the core experience. It's what is set to essentially default every time you start the car up. If you flick this up, you can go to the go-kart mode, which plays a sound effect that looks like it's been pulled straight out of Super Mario Kart, which I love. This is essentially the sport mode. You can see it brings up attack and a speedometer. There's no active exhaust, but you can hear the engine still makes a relatively nice sound when you rev it. Going back, let's go back down into the core mode. You can hear the theme here. So that's the standard startup theme that you hear every time you start the vehicle up. I can also toggle it down to green, which is the efficiency mode. Again, it kind of plays nature sounds here to let you know you're being efficient. Vivid is kind of like a music mode, I think. Because when I put into this mode, it actually automatically will pull up your audio source, which is kind of interesting, and also a red theme. You can scroll down to Timeless, which reminds you of classic Minis. It goes back to the gauge display as well, and it shows you the classic font there for the actual style for the gauges, which I really appreciate, and all this really interesting taupe background color. And then if I scroll it down again, there's balanced here. The balance also kind of turns on my massage seats, and it also closes this sunshade automatically. So again, interesting little theme there. And then the last theme is Trail, which I'm assuming is more like an off-road mode. Again, it plays more nature sounds, gives you a different look to the tach and speedometer. The different experiences take a second to load up, but once they do load up, it certainly adds to the charismatic theme of the interior. I personally either like the core or the go-kart mode, but let me know in the comment section below what mode or theme you actually prefer. Drive modes, you can also see there's a volume knob here. Your transmission selector is over here. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see that brings up your full 360 camera with a top-down view. It also has automatic cross-traffic braking as well. So a bunch of new technology, and I also really appreciate the fact that they give you several different views. For example, I can go to a 3D view and I can swipe and rotate around the vehicle. I also love the fact that the actual car in the display matches the car that you actually have in real life. So that's definitely a nice cool feature. You can also pull up a panorama view. You can go into like a car wash view as well to help you get into an actual car wash. So all this technology is pretty much expected. It's been borrowed, of course, from modern BMWs. Now, in terms of the dash materials, you can see that same interesting pattern fabric is carried over onto the dash, where it's also blue. The color change, however, is only on the door panels. This upper portion here is a hard touch injection molded plastic, although you're never going to really touch that area. You can see this model also has a heads-up display with that flip-up glass panel. The heads-up display actually mimics the look that you get here in the center. What Mini did, however, get rid of is the digital display that they used to have here behind the instrument panel. Instead, you have to look at the heads-up display or look over here to find your speed information. The steering wheel is also new. You can see it reminds me of a BMW with the really thick bolstering, the contrast stitching as well, which is nice. Some of the buttons and switchgear look like they're from a BMW, but the airbag cover here and this really cool textured fabric strap for the third spoke on the wheel also looks really nice. No paddles on the wheel. I believe the JCW will include that. You also have a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment for the steering wheel. That also gives you a good amount of adjustability and range. The turn signal stalks are BMW-esque, but again, they have like a unique Mini touch to them. You have automatic wipers. The horn, it actually sounds decent. It doesn't sound like a puny, pathetic horn for a small car, which I appreciate. There's also kind of like this textured plastic here. That's a camera that watches your face for the active driver assistance tech to make sure that you're paying attention. And then over here on the center stack, this is the new 9.4-inch OLED display. It's running Mini's latest iOS 9 software. You can see my phone is connected via wireless CarPlay. It also has wireless Android Auto. I love the way that the screen looks, especially how the CarPlay takes up the entire screen, but the actual area where you can interact with the CarPlay is only this kind of little rectangle, which definitely is a weird shape to it. You can see when my phone is connected, it's relatively quick and snappy and responsive. You can also go into you know, all your different music sources and whatnot. Going back to your widgets here, you can see it's a little bit laggy there, and I'm not entirely sure if it's laggy because my phone is also filming while it's also connected to the CarPlay. You can also go back to the Mini native system, which you can see pulls up there. It has its own little personal assistant, which Spike is the personal assistant's dog, which for some reason in my week's worth of testing, it kept showing me almost ready, so I couldn't interact with it, which kind of was annoying. I do think that this software needs a little bit of updates. It does have wireless over-the-air updates, so even though it's a little bit laggy as you're seeing here, it will improve over time whenever Mini can update the software and improve on that. You can see it has embedded GPS as well. The GPS function looks like it's been pulled out of course, a BMW. It's just been kind of repurposed to look a little bit different. Going back to your home display here, tap that home icon. You can see there's your home display. You can tap that to show all your different icons. You can also pull up a speedometer and traditional gauge display there. You can also pull that up in the different themes for the interior. You can see there's also a dual zone climate control function here. You have 3-level heated steering wheel and heated seats, but no cooled seats. That's something that I think Mini should have offered as well. And you can go into like a personalized profile here, which as you can see, you can log in and create that little profile. Going back to this little widget area, you can see this also allows you to kind of stream videos. It also has Spotify built in, all your different sources like Amazon Alexa and that personal assistant, like I said. This finally looks modern, and it's also relatively intuitive and easy to use. Down here you can see there are some touch sensitive buttons for the camera function, for the defrost and rear defrost. If I push that, you can see that brings up your driver assistance function. And this car also has an ambient LED lighting system on the interior with several different colors. The ambient lighting certainly looks interesting, and I also applaud Mini for finally adding that upscale feature. It makes the interior at night seem a lot more fun, of course. Down here you can see there's a wireless phone charging pad, which fits my iPhone 14 Pro Max very well. You have more storage over here. You also have some bronze accents along the cup holders here, which are a nice size. And then you can see here, part of that favored trim also includes this really cool little nifty storage compartment with this little strap that you pull up to access. You can see it fits some knickknacks like my wallet, sunglasses, for example. You can put keys in there. I also like how that's nice and, you know, got the same fabric from the dash over here for consistency. Over here you can see it's a padded center console. It feels like it's stitched in leather, but it doesn't have any exposed stitching. It's a little bit soft. I actually thought that this would open up to allow for additional storage, but it doesn't. Instead, you can just kind of slide it forward to improve the positioning of it. You can see there's 2 USB charging ports there, USB-Cs, along with a 12-volt power outlet, which is nice. The seats, as you can see, are very comfortable and supportive. I think that the seats look fantastic. I love the vintage brown. These are the JCW style seats, which have more aggressive bolstering. However, the head restraint doesn't adjust forward or up or down. So kind of try the seats out. Make sure the head restraints don't push too far up on your neck, obviously. And then over here, in terms of the glove compartment, you can see it's big, it's damped but not lined with felt. It goes right into the dash, which is nice. I also like the way the dash vents look. You can see they open and close via this little toggle. You can also move them around via the little toggle, which feels pretty nice. You have an auto-dimming rearview mirror, but no digital camera style rearview mirror. There's also an interior camera in here that also watches your face. There's a woven material here. The big panoramic glass roof is nice. You can open it up to essentially open it up to let some air in or additional light. Which is nice. You can also just tilt it if you like. I did notice that the glass is not as dark tinted as I wanted it to be, so you can feel the heat radiating off this, but thankfully you can kind of close that shade if you guys prefer to not have the sun beating down on you. And then over here, in terms of the experiences, I want to show you guys that really quick. However, it may actually disconnect my phone a couple times, but you can see there's several different experiences. You can go from a core, a go-kart, a green, a vivid, a timeless, which kind of reminds you of the classic minis, a balance, and then a trail mode. So it's all these different themes. And then when it does switch the drive mode, it also kind of plays a really cool music, and it kind of gives you, again, a different color and spectrum to the actual display. So I think that's really nice and just adding some more character into this interior. But overall, build quality seems solid. Materials also seem solid. The space and visibility in here is good. The technology is finally here where it needed to be. So I'm really impressed with what Mini offers for this new generation Countryman. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area, because the back seat of this new version definitely got a nice upgrade in terms of space. Now, let me go ahead and unlock the door here. You can see, opening up the back seat, Mini says you have up to 37 inches of legroom back here, which if you look at the numbers, this actually has around 0.6 inches less versus the previous generation, which I wasn't expecting. But you can see you have the same brown material over the back seat here, the brown fabric over the back seat door panels, which is nice. This area here, however, is a hard touch plastic. These seats, obviously, they do fold down to expand the cargo capacity. You can pull up that strap. You can see that folds down to create almost a flat low floor, which is nice. The seats also have the ability to do a recline as well. You can recline it up to that much. The headrest, you can see when they're in this down position, it keeps them from blocking your rear view mirror view. Or you can also have it in that up position for comfort. You can see, getting back here in terms of the space, this is pretty much where I'd have the seat to drive. And once I'm back here, Mini again says 37 inches of legroom. I can get comfortable. There's really good foot space underneath here. If I want to cross my legs, however, it's a little bit tight for somebody my height at 5'7". You do have rear seat air vents, 2 more USB-C charging ports, a little bit of storage here. There is a hump for that middle passenger, but the vehicle is wide enough where you could sit, average sized people, 3 of them across. In terms of the headroom, you can see lots of headroom thanks to that increase in height by 4 inches. Even with the pano roof, there's a ton of headroom for somebody my height. And then if you fold this down here, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders, which is nice. And the seats themselves, there's the same beautiful leather with the perforations. No heated back seats, however, back here, and no rear window sunshades. But overall, I think Mini definitely got the back seat right. And I think for people who plan to use this as a family car, you might be surprised by the amount of space that you find in the back of this new Countryman. So here we are, finally behind the wheel of the all-new 3rd generation Mini Countryman. As you guys know, the company's kind of on a revitalization assault because we have a new version of their small SUV and, of course, their signature vehicle, the Cooper 2-door and the Cooper 4-door. Really, the oldest model right now in the Mini lineup is the convertible, which I'm assuming the company will show us an all-new version of that at some point as well. But this Countryman represents about 40% of the total Mini sales here in the US. And this new version is very important because this is a small SUV that's built on the same new architecture that also underpins the BMW X1 and X2, which honestly is a great place to start. Now, so there's some big changes with the powertrain underneath the hood, because only in America can you now get the Countryman S all-4. So all of them come with all-wheel drive, and we got a big power upgrade this year. 241 horsepower, which is 52 more horsepower and about 90 more foot-pounds of torque versus the previous generation. It's a big upgrade, and this car only gained around 200 pounds of weight. So the last time I 0 to 60 tested an X1 xDrive 28i on this road, I got 6.6 seconds. So let's go ahead and see what we can get in this model here. To activate it, you have to go into the Experience Go-Kart mode, which is essentially the sport mode, which gives you that little fun graphic. There's no paddle shifters. I don't think this has launch control, but we'll brake torque it. Can feel a little soft off the line, but you know what? We just got 6.3 seconds there, 0 to 60 wise. So that's about 0.3 or almost 0.3 seconds faster versus the BMW X1 xDrive 28i that I last tested about 10 months ago, which has the same exact powertrain. The fact that Mini replaced the 8-speed ZF automatic with this 7-speed dual clutch is an interesting change, because dual clutches obviously give you more in terms of quicker shifting, usually better, faster acceleration times, but you kind of get that at the expense of drivability, because when I had this powertrain combination in the BMW, I noticed that it did have some lag initially from a start, and am I noticing it in this vehicle? We'll talk about that in just a moment, but let's try another 0 to 60 run here. This time I won't brake torque it. I'm just gonna floor it and see what we can get here. It's still in sport mode, of course, so basically just put your foot down. You do have to wait, there's that lag, but once it goes, you can feel the quick shifts. 6.6 seconds there, so that's with it more going slightly uphill. Again, as you guys saw on the first run, brake torquing it does absolutely nothing. This car could use some launch control to get rid of the lag. I'm hoping the JCW version will get rid of that and offer launch control, and it should also have paddle shifters. I also haven't had a chance to drive the BMW X1 M35i version, because remember, the JCW and that M35i BMW have about 71 more horsepower, although they have the same exact torque figure as this, tune of this 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, which, this engine is a lot, more refined than previous iterations of BMW's 2-liter turbo. It is a very good powertrain for this car. It moves the vehicle out smartly. Remember, this vehicle weighs around 3,800 pounds, and it's a big car. This car is 175 inches long, 5 inches longer, and 4 inches taller than the previous generation. Now, this thing is still about the same size as a Subaru Crosstrek, so it's not big. Like a Toyota RAV4 or CR-V is still around 6 to 8 inches longer than this car. But in terms of the handling dynamics, as we're stuck behind this silly trash truck, you can see the steering is typical BMW quick. It's light and devoid of feel, but the chassis changes directions pretty quick. The ride quality in this car also is really good. I'm actually gonna, since we're stuck behind this dump truck here, we're gonna switch it over into the core drive mode. And you can see, I love the graphics from the infotainment system. I love the sounds. In this mode, it kind of quiets down the revs. You can see it brought back a different look to the 9.4-inch OLED display. And I have to say, you can kind of switch out the different experiences, and it gives you so many different types of looks and feel, of course, with the sounds. But this is a really nice driving car. It's very refined. It's also very quiet. This car is built in Germany, and there's not a single squeak or rattle in this thing. It just feels very tight, very solidly made, very German, which is something that you kind of expect from BMW, their sister company or their parent company. But overall, it makes a great first impression. I also love the fact that visibility in this car is good. I can see out of the front, the side, the rear nicely, although you do need to have that rear headrest kind of bolted or flopping down, because when they're up, they do take up a fairly good, decent amount of space, and it blocks your rear view. There is no digital camera rear view mirror, which is kind of annoying, but it's something that, again, the squared off shape of this car means you don't necessarily have to deal or necessarily need to have the kind of digital camera rear view mirror. So again, with the dual clutch, you can see I took my foot off the brake. Now that's probably the brake hold feature, but put my foot down here. The sound is definitely synthesized in this car, but I like the sound. I mean, I don't mind a fake sound as long as it has, or at least as long as it sounds good. So in go-kart mode, you can hear it a little bit more, which is nice. It adds to the whole visceral experience. Now, if you guys are looking, coming from a regular Mini Cooper two-door, this is gonna feel big, especially by Mini standards, but you can see handling dynamics are solid. There's plenty of grip from the front. Do you feel the weight? Yes, you feel the weight, and you feel the added width of this car and the added height. It finally feels like I'm driving an SUV versus the old version of the Countryman. But let's try another run here. This time I won't brake torque it, just for consistency. Still a little bit of lag, but once it gets going, feels good. 6.3 seconds there. So again, the same 0 to 60 time, whether you brake, torque it or not, and I think that's a pretty solid number. Remember, if you guys want more speed, the JCW version will do it in 5.2 seconds. Haven't had a chance to drive that, but hoping that Mini or BMW will send me that powertrain at some point later on so we can sample it. The brakes also in this car, they're just the standard four-wheel disc brakes, and they feel good. They have, you know, nice bite. They have a good feel to them. And I think they should be, you know, satisfying for most people, especially if you're planning to do some spirited driving. Now this version, or this car has the latest version of Mini's all-wheel drive system, which has the ability to send up to 100% of the torque to the rear wheels if necessary. It usually has like a 50-50 torque split. I like the fact that Mini makes all-wheel drive standard on this car. I think that's a good decision, especially considering the fact that people who buy this probably are going to want an SUV. Now that we found some corners and ditched the dump truck, you can see handling-wise, suspension definitely feels a little bit softer than I expected for a Mini, but that pays dividends in the ride quality. This has the best ride quality of any Mini that I've experienced. Let's go ahead and switch the drive mode here. I'm gonna actually go into its, let's try the vivid setting here. I love the music that it plays. Again, that actually goes into the Apple CarPlay right away there, and you can hear it quieted down a lot. Let's go into the timeless, which gives you the classic Mini display as well when you go into this mode. And a nice little fun little music chime. Again, it gives you kind of a font that reminds you of the classic Minis. I don't love the color of it, but again, it's a throwback to that. But I mean, when you're just driving the car normally, it feels really good. The seats are pretty comfortable for me. I actually like how the bolsters are a little bit more aggressive. I will say that the headrests come a little too far forward and you can't adjust them up or down or forward and back. So try the seats out for themselves, see if you like them. This car does not offer ventilated seats, which I would have liked to see, especially considering at the price point. What you do get, however, is an active lumbar massage available with, I think, 5 different types. I hate the lumbar massage for me. It just kind of just inflates and deflates the lumbar bolster, and it drives me nuts. So I would personally just never use it. I would trade it for ventilated seats. I wish Mini would offer the ventilated seats. This car is also the first Mini to come with level 2 hands-free driver assistance tech, which works at speeds at up to 37 miles an hour, where you can essentially drive you hands-free with the adaptive cruise control. Above that, you do have to keep your hands on the wheel. It's not the, you know, the active driver assist hands-off that you can get in some of the upper-end BMWs, but it's definitely an improvement. The tech in this car is just a huge improvement. It just feels so much more modern. The build quality seems great as well. There's still that charismatic, you know, character that Minis have, and they've built it into this interior. And although I can still see some evidence of BMW switchgear in here, that's not a bad thing because they've also added some of the, you know, bespoke Mini touches in here, which is shocking considering the price point of a lot of Minis. I do miss the fact that there is no more actual instrument panel behind me, but you do have that heads-up display that pops up with a little plexiglass, you know, display that flips up. That's a classic Mini thing, so that kind of replaces that. You can also glance over to the side and see your driver assistance as well. In terms of the fuel efficiency, this car is rated at 2432. It technically got a 1 mpg improvement over the previous generation, and the fuel tank shrunk by about 2 gallons. The car was averaging in my testing around 27 miles per gallon in mixed driving, which is not bad. Premium, of course, is going to be recommended. On the highway, this car was doing around 34 mpg for me, which is excellent. This car is very fuel efficient, just like a lot of modern BMWs. In the real world testing, in terms of range, I was getting around just shy of 300 or 400 miles of range. I can't speak today. Around 375 to 380 miles of range, which is excellent as well. The car's trip computer was showing a rather optimistic 500 miles when I first had this car with a full tank, but of course it started to reset itself after I was driving the car for a little bit. So overall, I'm really impressed. The Mini Countryman has never really been my favorite vehicle in the segment, but because it's now riding on the X1 platform, aside from the noticeable lag initially, once you get past that, this car feels fast, and of course when you put your foot down, you kind of have to get used to that. I think that's where a hybrid version of this car would fix that. There's also, remember, an electric version, of course, that's coming, the Countryman SE, which offers around 313 horsepower and 212 miles of range. There's also a plug-in hybrid version of this coming that could be the best of both worlds. But overall, if you guys are looking for a small SUV and you want something with a lot more character and style, and of course you'd like something that's also quick, sporty, and fun to drive, you should definitely be putting this new Countryman S at the very top of your list. Now here in America, Mini managed to sell a little over 12,500 Countrymans in the US back in 2023. That is kind of a far cry versus the 20,000 that they once did back in the 2010 to 2015 era. But as you can see, after spending a week with the all-new third generation Countryman, Mini obviously is trying to completely reinvigorate their lineup. And starting with this vehicle, a small SUV, is a great place to start. Because as you guys know, being built off of the same platform as the new X1 and X2 is also a wonderful place to begin, because this car has a new level of refinement, space, and technology that Minis have just never had before. Even though this is known as the base trim, as you guys saw, 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds, is certainly going to be sufficiently fast for most people. The one thing that I think could make this car even better is if it included like a mild hybrid system to get rid of that initial lag on takeoff that I was noticing. But again, once you kind of get used to that, the vehicle certainly has plenty of power once it gets moving. The ride quality also is among the best that I've sampled in a Mini. So even though this car has massive 20-inch wheels, it has a comfortable ride, a quiet interior, wonderful amounts of tech. I love that new 9.4-inch OLED display with their latest iOS 9 software. It has wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. It finally looks modern, but it also looks very much like a Mini on the inside with the ovals and whatnot. The lack of additional switchgear and toggles, I also think, while some of you may not like that compared to your old Mini, you'll get used to it once you kind of get, in the groove of this car and own it for a little bit. The back seat also is usable. The trunk space is usable. Handling dynamics, while it's certainly not the sportiest driving Mini, it's going to be comfortable, and I think that's what people in this segment are going to be looking for in general. Now, I'm hoping to eventually get my hands on the JCW and the all-electric version of this car. We also are waiting to hear specs on the plug-in hybrid as well, because I think that could be the sweet spot between all the engine options for this vehicle. Fuel economy is also pretty strong, and this car just has a lot of style. Everywhere I took it, it turned a lot of heads, so I wouldn't be surprised to see these, start to show up more in your local area. I personally like this car a lot more versus its BMW equivalents, and that's where we're going to come to the interesting part. Even though this car has a lot more style and technology, I personally think, versus the BMW counterparts, the Mini Countryman is cheaper versus a comparably equipped BMW X1. Now, obviously, if you guys are looking at the old version of 2024, they did increase the price significantly, because the old Countryman used to start in the low $30,000 range. They got rid of the base version of this car, which now again starts at the S as the base version, which means the starting price is just under $39,000. That represents around a $4,000 price hike versus the 2024 Countryman S, which I think is worth it considering you get all that additional power and technology and way more interior space as well. My test car has the iconic trim level for additional $3,200. That rolls in, of course, the power seats, the upgraded Harman Kardon stereo system, the heated seat functionality, the navigation function. That's kind of worth it to go to the iconic trim. For an extra $600, we have the favored trim style as well that gives you some unique accents on the outside. All in, my test car with destination and the upcharge for the paint, I believe, comes into around $44,245. So again, mid $40,000 range sounds pretty expensive, especially when you can get into like a mainstream vehicle like a RAV4 for the under $30,000 range. But to be honest, if you're looking at a fully loaded version of a CR-V or RAV4 in like a hybrid specification, those can also be in the low to mid $40,000 range. Now, I will say that the RAV4 Hybrid Limited does have more equipment, like cooled seats, for example, and a couple of other things that might sway you into the Toyota. But again, what Mini has done here is they've essentially offered a premium compact SUV that has a lot of character and a lot of style that the Mini brand is known for, but they finally brought it into the 21st century. And I think this is definitely a better option for me personally versus the BMW equivalent. So if you guys want something different, but you also need that practicality, you need to definitely take a look at this brand new Mini Countryman. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Mini Countryman S. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.